So, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. This has become an often repeated phrase among marathon and ultra runners. The idea is that the pain will come, and if you're one of those type of people, you will know that the pain always comes. Um, but how you deal with it, I guess that's providing it's not an injury or something that's really debilitating. How you deal with the pain is up to you. So the idea is, whether you choose to suffer or not is down to you. Sometimes the phrase gets modified a bit. So you might say about somebody deep in the endurance race, like, Courtney Dauwalter in her pain cave, oh, they really know how to suffer. Um, in endurance running, and certainly in every marathon that I've done, you think, oh boy, this really hurts. I wonder how much of this I can take. I'm not sure I can take this anymore, especially if it's one of your early marathons, because the hurt's an unavoidable reality. But when you say I can't take it anymore, whether you can stand it or not is kind of up to you. You're not generally going to die. And to be honest, it was something just last week in the Boston Marathon that I was thinking of a lot. So I was thinking, this is hurting, this is hurting. And I was going, yeah, but it's not suffering, it's not suffering. And the idea of all of this is in the foreword of today's book. It's right at the front on the first page when you open it up. And it's the classic book, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And it's what prompted the author Haruki Murakami to write about his own running when he felt the pain and wondered whether he had to suffer. So hi and welcome to Running Book Reviews podcast, where we review books written for runners, about runners, and by runners to help you decide if you'd like to read the book for yourself. We also hope listening to us chat about running can help you keep you motivated about our own running or maybe inspire you to try something new. My name's Alan, and with my newly minted co-host Cheyenne, we're going to talk about one of the running book classics, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami. But before we talk about that, we need to answer the question, what's happened to Liz and who's this Cheyenne guy? So before we let you get to the book overview, Cheyenne, what the hell are you doing here and what have you done with Liz?
Liz is good. Liz is fine. Liz is going on 17 different adventures and trying new paths in life, and we fully back her and support her. And when life happens, you gotta pick what you juggle. And I was actually sad to hear that Liz and Alan couldn't release a podcast most recently. So when I reached out to Alan, he reached out and said, Liz is a little busy, but wait, would you like to join in and try one out? And I was more than honored and happy to be a part of recording a podcast that I've listened to every single minute of, sometimes twice over even. Listen to the Buy Me a Coffee episodes and just listen to my running buddies chat and talk about running, just like as if I was running with them still. So I'm here to keep Liz's seat warm.
I guess the solid facts are that Liz has got a new job. She studied hard to get in these new IT jobs. And she's got a new job and she's finding it hard to keep up with all of her side hustles. She coaches, she does photography, and she's struggling to keep up with her book reading, which I was shocked because she always kills me at reading the books. And she says, look, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the book reading. We pride ourselves in reading all of the books cover to cover. So part of our shtick is reading the books. And funnily enough, I thought, okay, well, do we put the podcast on hiatus or do we try to keep it ticking along? And I thought, I'd like to try and keep it ticking along. And Liz actually said, and I was thinking about asking you, Cheyenne, and Liz said, why don't you ask Cheyenne if he wants to do some episodes, and that'll give me a bit more time to deal with her. She's still got some books on her agenda, but she needs a bit more time to to deal with those. So in fact, you got a unanimous vote from the
Oh yeah.
podcast team, and here you are. So without further ado, why don't we get on with
Let's do it.
our little book review?
We do
And
got to shout out Liz though. She just crushed a sub 130 half marathon. She's still training. She's
yeah,
still
she did.
doing her training and
Yeah,
she
she did.
crushed it.
Not only did she crush a sub 130 half marathon, she crushed a sub 129 half marathon.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
And she's back. I think she's back on her sneaky journey to creep back up on that 3 hour attempt.
She's gonna make it. She's gonna
Let's
make
hope
it. I
so.
know it.
Sending her good vibes.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes, sir.
we'll be talking to her on podcasts down the track and get the inside scoop.
Can't wait.
So over to you for the book overview.
Yes, sir. What I talk about when I talk about running by Haruki Murakami is a memoir exploring the deep connection between his disciplined running habit and his career as a novelist. Murakami reflects on how training for marathons and triathlons builds the physical and mental stamina necessary for writing, emphasizing endurance, focus, and self-discovery. The book is a blend of travelogue, training diary, and philosophical memoir that chronicles his experience training for events. The book describes his training for the New York City Marathon. He describes running Athens to Marathon, Greece, an ultramarathon in Hokkaido, and a triathlon in Murakami, Niigata Prefecture. I hope I pronounced that very well. And everything and anything in between, his thoughts, his raw memories, and everything he thinks about while he runs, which is really cool to connect with. Haruki Murakami is a globally acclaimed Japanese author known for surrealist, melancholic fiction that blends Western pop culture with Japanese themes. And after running a jazz bar, he began writing in his late 20s, producing a series of fiction books, often featuring themes of loneliness and magical realism. Before becoming a writer, Murakami and his wife Yoko owned and operated a jazz coffee house in Tokyo from 1974 to 1981. Murakami is known for his intense daily routine, often waking up at 4 a.m. to write, followed by long-distance running or swimming, which he credits for his mental endurance. He is a renowned translator of American literature into Japanese, including works by F. Scott Fitzgerald and Raymond Chandler. Murakami has received numerous awards, including the Franz Kafka Prize and the Jerusalem Prize, and is consistently mentioned as a contender for the Nobel Prize in Literature. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, so he's a hot book writer before he became a running book writer, or a runner, in fact. I guess probably Liz would identify very strongly with him, given that he wakes up at 4 a.m. She would have been, oh, yeah, that's good. Not have been going, oh, no. Liz is all, the footprint of Liz is still very much on this podcast.
Yes. Oh, she missed that. I would love to hear what Liz thinks about waking up at 4 a.m. for swimming and long distance running.
So we don't have, we didn't really make an effort to contact Haruki to come on the podcast and talk to us about his book, because the book's actually quite old. The story, it's like a part diary, the story, and it starts in 2005. So it's already 20 years old. So we weren't sort of game to contact Murakami to talk to us about it from that far back. But
we probably have had to do a 4 a.m. podcast at that point too, maybe.
But I have noticed that lots of people listed in their favorite books still.
Oh.
And mention it. So I think it's one of the perennial classics. So from that point of view, it's a great subject for a podcast.
Absolutely.
We normally ask the authors right at the start, what prompted you to write this book? And so if we're talking about it, just you and I, we should probably start with that. How did Murakami get into running, and then how did he get into writing first and then into running? I think he got into writing because he won a competition. He's some jazz bar owner, and he's got like a pretty terrible lifestyle, and he smokes, and he decided he would enter a writing competition, and he won first prize. And then he kind of never thought about being a writer, but then he thought, okay, well, maybe I'll do some writing. And then that seemed to have a flair for it, and then sort of became a novelist, and a very, very well-renowned novelist. Nothing to do with running, but a big novelist, almost almost by accident, sort of without really targeting to do that, it seemed to me. Do you take caffeine when you run? Lots of people do because it's in gels and stuff. And caffeine's legal and it's been proven to work. There's actual science that shows that it improves your endurance running performance.
And there's anecdotal data from when you have your coffee in the morning and you go for a workout versus when you forgot to have your coffee or you didn't have time and you went for a workout and it was terrible.
And the trouble with coffee is there's a lot of liquid just to get your caffeine dose.
Yeah, so then you have to stop for the bathroom mid-workout. Very impractical. Which is where Caffeine Bullet comes in.
What's Caffeine Bullet, Liz?
It's a caffeine supplement. It's wrapped up like in a candy. And it tastes like candy. And you can get 100 milligrams or 85 milligrams, which is about a cup of coffee, but without the liquid.
So we've tried the mint flavor and the chocolate orange flavor. They're both pretty yummy.
If you want to try them for yourself, we do have a 20% off discount code. So go to the link in the show notes and you can check out what Caffeine Bullet is and get your 20% discount.
Pretty generous.
It is pretty generous.
And we'll get a small benefit, so you're helping out the...
Speaking of which, back to the podcast.
It reminds me of a lot of runners when they start running. Sometimes they accidentally fall into running, whether it's someone in their 20s or Andre DeGrasse famously just finished basketball practice, I think, and in his basketball shorts was challenged to a race when he was in his high school, and then just won a little 100-meter dash of practice, and he is who he is now, multiple gold medals, one of the best athletes in Canadian history. Yeah, and a lot of us, we hope to build running as this, do a 5K, do a 10K, do a training plan, but sometimes you just get challenged to do something, and we open up a whole new door of an activity, a hobby, sometimes a profession that we just accidentally get into because we were challenged to do so, whether by someone else or by ourselves.
And I think he seemed to get into running the same sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a pretty crummy lifestyle. I should try and go for a little jog or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I guess a lot of people get into it. They go, oh, it's sunny, it's that time of year. See everybody out running. Ooh, maybe I could go and try running in the park or something. And then, little do they know that it's the first step on a long, 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 long road to being sort of positively addicted to that stuff.
They're a runner now. They might not want to admit it, but they're runners. They're part of the big group. Something I really enjoyed reading right fresh in the early chapters of the book was Murakami sort of emphasizing and explicitly stating that he seeks out solitude. He enjoys running alone. He embraces seeing and feeling and noticing things about people. Sometimes, writing stories in his head about them and creating these narratives. And he knows that the more he does this, he can uniquely write about things and see things in a way. And if other people appreciate it, then that's how he feels like he's accompanied and connected to people. It's like he says he would rather be in solitude than to be misunderstood and to be criticized or disagree with someone, because he just enjoys seeing the world in the way I would put it, in a raw way that he sees it. So personally, as a runner who wakes up in the morning, quite not maybe at 4 a.m., Liz, but in the morning to run on my own, I enjoy running on my own in the morning on my own time, and it helps me see the world in a different way. So I just connected with the fact that he enjoys doing that. And sometimes, as he explains later on in his book, some writers they have a different way of seeing the world, and I think that's his medicine, just being alone.
I think as I was reading it, I was thinking, what is it that draws people to sort of list this as one of their favorite books? And that's kind of one of the general aspects, I think, that all runners identify with certain aspects of his writing and his discourse and his thoughts. That solitude one, you're in your own head and ideas come to you or thoughts come to you or calmness descends upon you. There's a Zen sort of feeling because, your body's working and it's in a stasis. if you get into the zone, you're in the flow, and you get these sort of great feelings about the world and feeling you can deal with it and those kind of things. And I think that's one of the reasons why people read this book and they go, "Oh yeah, I love that book." It doesn't really talk to you about how you should run or
Mm-hmm.
and I think he actually says this in the book. I'm not here to explain to you the technical stuff about running.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he'll be giving you his thoughts and you go, yeah, that's right. And that's because you're at your first threshold and you're doing this kind of pace and you're probably experiencing this type of fatigue, and you haven't had enough carbs or whatever. But there's none of that techie stuff in the book.
Yeah.
It's all just thoughts and chat.
Yeah.
But stuff that you can, I think, as a runner, you can sort of identify with it strongly, and I think that's part of the appeal.
Yeah, he was very good at embracing this neutrality about the tech, as you said. The only time I saw him talk about tech was him talking about this pair of Mizuno shoes he found. It could have been in Boston if I got that correctly. And he was explaining why he loves Mizuno shoes, and he was like, and I think he even emphasized, I don't know much about shoes. I just know that they're low key. They are no bells and whistles. They just feel good on my foot. But that's just how I feel. And as a reader in 2026, I'm thinking when I think about
Mm.
running, I look at people's shoes and I think to myself, well, oh, what kind of runner are they? And are they pro max stable shoes? Are they pro
Yeah.
super minimalistic? Do they like the carbon plate? That's like the first threshold into any
Other
conversation.
stability is the Gaia pronator, all of that stuff. Yeah. He's just
Yeah,
going, oh yeah, it's comfortable and I'm jogging along.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's almost like he's like a newly arrived club member. Oh, what should I do? What shorts are good to wear? Or, those coming in a naive way, but he
Hmm.
has the writing ability of a high professional literary sort of almost genius. So he
Yeah,
can kind of share it in a way that,
yeah.
you or I probably couldn't do.
He thinks
It-
deeply. He thinks
yeah.
very deeply.
Yeah, but also he thinks wide broadly as well. So he thinks deeply
Hmm.
and broadly, and sometimes in a quite a simple fashion. One thing that fascinated me was, we talked about him having a jazz club and winning a writing competition, becoming an author, and then having, starting running to combat his bad health habits. And
Hmm.
he said that, yeah, sometimes I just don't feel like running. Now, but I
Hmm.
but I don't but I don't know if that's me or if that's everybody. So, well, I met because he spends half of his time in Japan and half of his time in the US. And he said, well, when I was in Japan, I met the Japanese Olympic marathon gold medalist, Seiko. Um, and I said to him, sometimes, do you have some times where you don't really feel like running? Because he didn't really know if it was him. So he thought, well, I'll ask an Olympic gold medalist. And Seiko says, yep, for sure. There are times when I don't feel like running. And then he goes, oh, that was nice of him to say that. And now I know that we're all the same and our feelings are shared right across. And, there's this like kind of naivety, but then his ability to explore it, even to the extent that he can go and ask an Olympic gold medalist about it.
Who was that runner you read about who would say there are three types of run. 33% of the time they're great, 33% of the time they're regular, and 33% of the time they're not so great. This Greek
Yeah.
marathoner,
Yeah, that was the trainer of the Greek girl, um,
Alexi Papas.
Alexi Papas. That's it.
Yes. Oh, good
Yeah,
pronunciation.
a third, a third, a third.
That's
Yeah,
it. A third, a third, a third. That's
yeah,
how I think about it too. Of course, there are days where you just have to go out and do it.
yeah.
That's it. Well said.
So our boy, when we pick him up, he's sort of targeting to train up for, I think it's the New York City Marathon, although he does refer to Boston Marathon as well a bit later.
Mhm.
But I think most of his running, he's getting decided he's going to run New York, and we hear about his sort of his preparation for that and how it's going. Um,
Mhm.
he also runs. he gets a job, a gig for Runner's World to write an article, and they say go to Athens and run to marathon. And he goes off all naive, really not thinking too much about it, other than, I'll get there and I'll change and I'll run. I'm just going to run on my own to describe what it feels like. And I guess they picked him for his literary ability, not for his running ability necessarily. And he kind of arrives and then realizes that, he's running through car occupied big roads in the middle of some sort of summer heat, and he doesn't take any drinks, and he has basically a terrible time. It seems to, like, he suffers quite badly. I mean, he's very philosophical about that, but the naivety of the way he approaches it. I guess this was 20 years ago, so there wasn't so much preparation, but you would at least take drinks and something to eat probably. But he almost kills himself in the Greece, the heat of Greece, running, trying to run to marathon, and then writes sort of all philosophically about it. Ah, well.
Weren't the locals or the organizers surprised that he was running the full part? Because I think the expectation was he was just going to run a piece of it and write about it.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well reminded. Yeah. Yeah, I think they thought he would just run a bit of the road or something and then just write about it. He said, no, you've paid for me to come over. I should run the whole thing.
Absolutely.
He has a sort of, there's the Japanese streak in him, isn't there, that you see? There's sort of a Zen type streak, but also a sense of duty.
Yeah.
So, he's very, as you said at the start, his 4 a.m. discipline. He's very disciplined, very constant, very consistent, very reliable, it would seem.
Yeah. And even when he finished, I think when he reached marathon, he didn't complete his full 26.2 miles. It was maybe at mile 25. And so he just ran a few blocks. Yeah, just to
so
make
you could say he ran a marathon.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. What a man. That's incredible. I understand it though. I mean, if I were to ideally do it, I would think that. But if you asked me after running 25 miles in the heat, he described that you got one more to go. You really have to finish that 26 mile. You got to do it. I don't know.
That appeals to you, does it?
Yeah. Oh, we should try that one day. I would love that.
Yeah. Interestingly, although he comes to running after his writing, he actually says in the book most of how he learned to write his fiction, he learned by running, because he said, I've written this down, running, the three specific things that running teaches him is to apply your talent, to have some skills and apply them, to focus. So, take your talent and sharpen it and use it. And 3, endurance. So keep going. He actually talks about his training as teaching his muscles what to do. So he then takes all of that and applies it to his writing, in terms of taking his talent, which he says seems to have more for writing, but then focusing it and applying some endurance to keep going to finish a book. He's obviously written quite, according to my little research, he's written a lot of books, and some very well regarded ones.
Can you relate to that, Alan? As a man who's run for most of his life and did it during his working and studying career, are there things from running that you transfer over to your work or personal or social life as transferable skills or lessons?
Yeah, I think work, from a work point of view, you come across challenges where you think, how am I going to do this? How will I possibly get this done? And sometimes there are imposed challenges. So you can't decide how much you're going to bite off. You have to hit this target with the project and this budget and etc. And so you go, okay, so it's just a challenge. And we're going to work out the best way that we can try to obtain that challenge. And I think, by running, you have a bit of confidence that it's doable and that can be done and that there's a way through. And that it maybe is going to feel halfway like the wheels are coming off, but if you keep going and you explore different options, you can get to the other end. I used to say to the guys at work, I used to say, look, this is not going to get done. I say, look, let's ask the question the other way. Let's imagine that it's going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
How did we do it?
Yes. What are the steps to get there?
And then you're focusing on what are the things I can do that are going to help me, rather than, what are my excuses for why I didn't achieve? And those are the things that you do naturally, I think, on a marathon, because you've decided you're going to the end. So you go, okay, I decided I'm going to the end, but now I've got a really sort of feeling of exhaustion that I never thought of. How am I going to deal with that? And then you try and work that through. You go, okay, well, I'm going to slow down a little bit and take, let me get in the shade.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get
Mm-hmm.
some extra drinks. Let's take some extra food. Let's
Mm-hmm.
get my mantra working. Let's, there are all sorts of things you can still, in your head, you can still bring to bear. And I think,
Yeah.
I would say that's true. And I would bet that most people who run marathons say that they're a better person for,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I might be biased and you might be biased as well, but hey, this is running book reviews.
Yes.
This is not, I don't know,
Book reviews.
curling reviews or croquet reviews. Yeah. Nothing against you guys. But,
No, I wouldn't double touch that, pun intended. What I would say, one of my favorite stories, and this might be cut for time or cut because it was a story that Alan told us on a run that we shouldn't share on the podcast, or just in case. I remember one of the best stories I remember.
We're among friends here, Cheyenne. You can
the
share.
the best. I remember there was on a long run. He told us a story about how there was this deadline that you had to reach at work, and you gathered everyone from different corners and silos into a room and practically ordered pizza, and you said, we're getting this to this deadline, and let's make it through. And you set out the steps to get there. And ultimately, when we want to get to a deadline, if we don't have the planning process or we don't see it as a long endurance activity, we think of it as let's just get to the end. Let's just get to the end. But there's a lot of meat in the middle we have to get through before getting to the end. Similarly, we don't run, I don't know, mile 14 of a marathon the way we run mile 24. We got to run it in a specific way. We got to gather people to gather our efforts in a specific way. And I remember you said, well, we got to get there. As you said, let's plan things. How do we get there? And you put everyone together and ultimately got to the finish line, but you treated every part of the project or that big decision in its own way rather than trying to sprint through, much like you would never sprint through a marathon. It takes some planning. And that kind of thinking, I feel like, comes from endurance running and activities, because you think to yourself, well, we're not going to finish it now. But there's an endurance aspect to it. And if we have patience and we treat it the way we should treat it, we treat every mile we should treat the way we should treat it, how it's supposed to be treated, we'll make it through. And it's a good thing to have in a manager or
and there we are, taking Murakami's book, reading it, applying it to our lives, and that's why people, I think, like the book so much.
Yes. One of his, he puts words into feelings that we feel in such a good way. A good example was, he's not running, I'm going to use his words, he's not running to live longer, but to live to the fullest. Yeah. And it's such a common feeling that we feel, but I never put in those words. If I'm running every day and you ask me why, part of it is the joy and part of it is health aspects. But to say live to the fullest, that means I want to be more present on my run. I want to feel like I'm flying. I want to feel like I'm running fast or feel like I'm running good, chatting with friends and socializing on our long runs or runs we have together. And so putting that into words as he does is it just helps us. I don't know, as a reader, I felt like I was seen in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my dad was never a runner, but he used to say, Alan, we're here for a good time, not a long time. So,
shout out Papa Miller.
Having said that, if you want to live forever, just get on a treadmill and try to run a marathon or something like that. Yeah, you can live a long time. 1 or 2 minutes can seem like an eternity.
Did you just make that up on your own?
What?
I never heard of that.
I don't know. I don't know.
I like that. Lionel Sanders style. It's facing a wall. I don't know if you ever seen him do his triathlon runs.
Yeah.
He's treadmill against the wall. No screen.
Mental toughness. You just look at the wall and go. After about 2 minutes, I'd be getting off. I'd be switching off, saying no.
Honey, give me the iPad.
But it just kind of depends on what you want, doesn't it? Because I mean, I don't own a treadmill. I don't doesn't strike me, even in winter, as fun to run on a treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
I'll only run
Mm-hmm.
on a treadmill if I need the exercise,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm training for something and I'm stuck in a hotel somewhere, or I don't feel safe outside or something like that.
But
And
otherwise, we're running for the for the views, for the interactions, and even
yeah,
interacting with someone as they pass you
oh,
by. That's a social
for the
interaction we get.
uplift in your spirits. And it's hard to get probably when you
Mm-hmm.
get off the treadmill, you go, oh, that's great. I feel great now. I'm not on the treadmill anymore. But maybe
No,
some
my
people
first
like it.
feeling off a treadmill is when you step off, you
Yeah.
feel like you're still moving because your legs are.
Yeah.
You ever feel that little feeling where you're like,
Yes. Yes. You feel like you're going backwards or something.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's my first thought. But he says
Yeah.
that in the book. He says that when he's training for New York City,
Yeah.
in Boston, his hometown, he loves the social interactions of, I think they were Harvard runners or Harvard freshmen, with their
Yeah.
ponytails and describing them.
Yeah.
It was,
It was quite cool because he was talking about the Charles River, and that's in Boston where he
mhm,
was living, and the youngsters running along. Um, it was particularly cool because I was in Boston like a week after finishing the book. I was in Boston, and then I was in the marathon, and what happened to me in the Boston Marathon was I used my 3:02 that I did 2 years ago to get in to qualify,
mhm,
but I'm in about 3:25 shape now. So I'm lining up in the corrals with all the people who've run three hours ish
mhm.
to qualify. So I'm actually in the wrong wave for the speed that I'm going to try to do. So mostly what happened was the wave that I was in the second wave. The wave basically ran away from me mostly. You
Mhm,
spread out, but what you notice is you're kind of moving backwards. And
mhm,
then after a while, the people, it's after halfway, the people from the wave behind you, the faster people, start to catch
mhm,
you up because you had a 15-minute head start on them, but you're running 3:25 and they're running sub 3 maybe.
mhm,
And so they catch you up. What I did was I went into the Murakami book and just admired because I'm an older guy, just admired the young people who were just passing me by rather than go, oh, I'm having a bad day. I was
mm.
going, look
Wow.
at these fantastic strong runners. And I'm particularly focused on the girls with ponytails because of the book, because he talks about
Yeah.
seeing the ponytails going backwards and forwards as they motor past him, and he feels like it's kind of passing the torch from the older runners to the younger runners. So I sort of relived the moment a little bit during the Boston Marathon. These youngsters with so much power just zooming by me. But rather than get despondent about it, I just sort of admired, say, okay, this is the new generation. There they
Hmm.
go. It's good to
Hmm.
see.
And we've all felt that speed and that feeling. Maybe we don't need to feel or run that speed to feel what they feel. We've
Mm,
all felt that at some point, and
mm,
whether it's our, beautiful luscious hair in the back flowing or our
yeah.
longer cotton t-shirts, whatever they are, we feel that.
You seem to go in and out of the beautiful, luscious hair flowing. I don't know whether you got a ponytail on the back of it. Oh, you do.
Yeah, I got a little man
You got
bun.
the man bun. Wow. How do I get one of those? That's
I'll
it's
give you
never
some of mine. Don't worry.
not
Put it on
happening.
the back.
I've missed my chance. Man buns when I had enough hair to have a man bun, man buns were not in vogue.
Really?
No. Oh,
There must
absolutely
be
not.
no, eh?
No.
Your wife, would Mel have liked you the same with the man bun?
Yeah. Don't know. I was quite a hippie, quite
Mm,
long hair when I was younger,
the good days.
but I'm more aerodynamically sound now for my
Yes,
running.
absolutely. That's what I'm missing. I gotta chop this beard and hair off.
Just when you get down to the needing the last half a second, that's all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and to add to the point, the way he described the 4 seasons of running in Boston as a Canadian, it reminded me that we have that and not everywhere has that.
Yeah.
And I've had the
Yeah,
chance
it's
to
true.
live in places, and so have you, in places
Yeah.
where we didn't quite have that. And just remind us that we're lucky to be able to pack on layers and run in the winter, shed those layers off in the spring, wear half layers in fall. And it was really cool the way he described the 4 seasons of running in the city, wherever he does. And that really makes it nice. It really does make it nice. And to your point of treadmills, I lived in places where you had to use a treadmill past the month of March, all the way to the month of October because of how hot it is. And that's a grind.
That was in Qatar.
Yes, in Doha. Yeah. Shout out Doha.
Yeah.
It was quite the time. And it made me miss when we came back for the summer. As soon as June, July came around, it made me really enjoy the summer runs in Canada before I went back to Qatar. So anyway, it's a good thing. Again, another thing he describes that we all relate to, but when someone writes it the way he does, he's a really good writer. You just feel like I couldn't have said it better myself, even if he gave me 1,000 years to.
So the next thing we see is that he's now entering having done the New York City, and he was unsatisfied with his marathons, I think, and he sort of decided he would have to come back and have other goes at that. But then we see him entering an ultra run, 100K. I think it's a 100K run. He says 62 miles, but I think it's probably a 100K run in Lake Sonoma. I'm not sure which that is, in Japan. So he's now come, by chapter 8 or something, he's now come from having a little jog because he's unhealthy. Now he's an ultra runner. So his discipline just basically takes him that way. And, he's fascinated by how it'd feel and all of that sort of stuff. And one part about his ultra run, he describes how it kind of various phases, how he kind of feels. But he talks about just after halfway, talks about miles 34 to 47 being excruciating, like a car going uphill with the brakes on.
Oh my God.
So just absolutely in a terrible, painful situation, and developing a mantra to really try and turn that off by pretending he's a machine. Just saying, I'm not a human, I'm a machine. I don't need to be feeling anything. I just keep moving. And you get some sort of insight into his, one, pain, and two, how he's trying to deal with the suffering and option himself out of the suffering, as we said on the intro.
Mm-hmm. It was eye-opening. We don't hear that often anymore, where people just think of themselves as don't feel, just do. But sometimes it works. It really does work. Where you think to yourself, I'm not feeling this. Just disassociate, decouple the pain from what you're doing, and just do, and forge on ahead. And it worked for him. And it's something I want to try more. Just to think to yourself, just do, just one step ahead, right, left, you'll get there.
I think it also seemed that there's a price to pay for that. So if you turn off, if you try to turn off your humanity and work like a machine, then you've got the effect of that after you get to the end. And he seemed to describe an extreme sort of post-run blues. My interpretation was he fell out of love with running for a while. I think took such a toll on him that he really didn't feel like himself for a long, long time, and wasn't as enthusiastic about his running for a good time after that. And he just sort of describes that as well.
Yeah, and it seemed like although he was in and out of running, and his desire to run, this lethargy he had, he lost his desire, and he only started feeling like a runner again when he just focused on his morning runs routine. As you said, he's disciplined, and he does his duty as he does as a runner. And so when he got it back, it seemed like he found his new definition of a runner, which is do your routine of running, run in the morning, be consistent with your training, and that's what a runner does, which is a complete aside from what most runners do, which is focus on the training and the goals and building over training plans and successes in a row. It was really cool to see someone just say, I'm a runner because I run in the morning. That's all, which is just as valid. Because again, he's trying to live to the fullest. He's not trying to live longer or to accomplish. He just wants to live to the fullest, and that's what he does.
Yeah, he's fascinated by the experience of the whole thing, but he approaches, I kind of feel that he approaches his running with a certain naivety that doesn't, seems to me that it doesn't help him because he talks
Hmm.
about, oh, I mustn't walk, I have to run.
Yes.
Walking is kind of a failure. Um, you know, I enter the marathon, I have to finish. Dropping out
Hmm.
as a failure, you know, and I guess because that's meaningful to him, then I guess that's right for him. But
Hmm.
it's not what I would advise people. I'm saying, no, drop out if you need to drop out. If you're not doing it, drop out. You can enter another one, or have a walk for a while and
Hmm.
recover a little bit. But for him, that's like sort of a failure. I think he views that as a failure.
Could
Um,
you imagine not walking in an ultra marathon, Alan?
I assume he would stop and walk, or he would walk up the hills or something. I mean, no, you have to power walk. I mean,
Hmm.
if you have a hilly ultra, you have to power walk. I mean, if you run the whole way, you're going to hurt
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm. And I mean, kudos to him. He said that after the 47-mile mark, with about 50 miles to go, he passed 200 people on his
Hmm.
account,
Yeah,
which is
he
a
got
lot.
it. He got it all back on board. Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm. He lives this very, all the way or none of the way kind of life at this
yeah,
point of his
yeah.
journey.
That's very much that. Yeah.
Incredible. And speaking of his mentality with running, as we described it, his paranoia before the New York Marathon. I love the word paranoia. I think we all
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah, he
Makes you
didn't he didn't use that. I
no.
think I summarized it like that. Yeah.
It's a good term because it makes you think, one, of marinoia, and two, marinara, the kind of sauce we put on our pasta in the week before the pasta. But one thing I read as a good friend of yours is, he hurt his knee walking downstairs just before New York City. And I don't know if you remember, but someone in this conversation hurt his leg going down the stairs before a super big important marathon. You remember that?
No,
For those of you listening,
no.
Alan's looking around as if there's someone else.
Who could that be?
No, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, but that was a real injury.
It was, and yet you crushed it. It just made me think of you. You want to
That's
tell
true.
us about
Um, I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
that? Your sub three, when you accomplished your sub three in Toronto in 2023. Didn't you have a little bit of a slip on the
Hang on.
stairs? I'll get it from the beginning again. In 2023,
Yeah.
you had a slip on the stairs before your
Oh
sub three
yeah, I
attempt.
didn't
Remember
hurt my
that?
leg. I didn't hurt my leg. I broke some ribs,
Oh, it's
and
your ribs.
yeah, that's why I wasn't getting the story.
Oh, okay.
I
But
don't
it
know if
went
they were
down the stairs,
broken,
right?
but they felt as if they were broken. Yeah, I slipped on the stairs,
Oh, okay.
sort of wooden stairs, running down the stairs in my socks, and I had to do a few weeks where I couldn't actually run because it was just too painful.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do so. What I did is I got on the bike,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was just doing stationary bike training, just to keep my cardio up. And yeah, but there was no paranoia in that. That was
Real.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And you
think
you did run a sub three that year.
the example, the example of that was being ultra realist, saying, okay,
Mm-hmm.
can I run? No, that hurts far too much. I can't take more than 3 steps. Okay, so what can I do that's going to help me keep my fitness that'll still leave me with enough time to train to the marathon? And, I sort of did that and yeah, it worked out quite well. Maybe it was the rest. My legs got a rest.
Mm.
But I wouldn't recommend smashing your ribs up before as part of a marathon prep.
So what I'm
Um,
hearing is no stairs before a marathon.
well, just yeah, get some of those rubbery socks or whatever. Uh, just go bare feet. It was like just woolly socks on a wooden stair. Yeah,
Absolutely.
dumb. Yeah, back
It
to
worked.
Murakami.
Back to Murakami. He still takes so much pride in not having walked in a single marathon until
Yeah,
his
it's
last
true.
one, I think.
It's true.
It's
Yeah.
uh it's incredible. I mean, walking marathon, we're coming off a week ago in Boston. There was this ad that Nike posted where they
Mm.
had this on the street somewhere. It was like runners welcome, walkers, I'm paraphrasing, I think.
Tolerated. Tolerated.
Tolerated. There we go. Walkers
Yeah.
tolerated, which as a runner and as a club member and as someone who has a lot of friends running, my first red flag was a lot of people do walk run marathons,
Yeah.
even in Boston, right?
Yeah.
They'll still do their plan, and they're just as much as runners as everyone else, and it takes a lot more discipline to follow a plan like that, and they're on their feet for longer.
Yeah.
So to me,
Yeah.
that rang alarm bells. So walking a marathon is not an atrocious. It's not a bad thing to do. It's something you could do, and a lot of people do, especially when you have to go get your water at the water stations. It's not so bad as you mentioned it, but again, you got to remember this book was written over 20 years ago, and Murakami's a special man. He does things his own way, which is why we love him.
That's very true. He gets into tri as well, and he starts switching between triathlon and marathons as well. But I think it all speaks the same, and he gets into a season of sometimes focusing on not Ironmans. He doesn't have time for that, but focusing on tries, and then half a year focusing on marathons.
And he takes pride in starting when he stops, whether it's finishing all the marathons he started, all 24 of them. And when he doesn't start one, he feels inadequate a little bit. I'm portraying, I think. And when he doesn't do well in his triathlon attempts, he takes it very seriously. He thinks of coaches, and he thinks of getting proper training done. His wife's trainer at the gym is an idea for him to train. So he takes it very seriously. He does things well when he wants to do it. He doesn't just...
Yeah, he's massively dedicated, I think, focused and consistent, and very humble.
Yeah.
He's very much talking about, I'm an older guy, I'm not very good, and I just do the things that I do and enjoy doing them. So I think, again, people who are non-elitist can identify with him very well and would enjoy the book probably.
And he talks about that when he says, I'm using his words, I think, when he runs, it's like pouring water into an old pan that has a hole at the bottom. It's a very good visual that he seems to think that when he trains, sometimes I've definitely been in a situation where I've overtrained, or maybe I'm training in a way where I'm losing a little bit by overdoing it. And he is humble to know that there's a limit to all the things he wants to do.
Or you're putting heaps of training in, but you only see that you're getting a tiny benefit out of it. You're wondering where all your training's going. It's running out of the hole in the bottom of your pan. Yeah.
And that's not just for running. He felt that in swimming and in cycling. There is a limit. It's as I tell my math students, it's like a logarithmic curve. It flattens out. It doesn't flatten out fully. It's sort of square root. It keeps growing a little bit, but the returns are so diminishing. That's why you have that beginner's luck, where at the beginning everything feels linear. You do more, you get more. You do more, you get more. But once you're in the number of years he trained, the number of years you've trained and I've trained,
you get into diminishing returns.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
But there's still returns.
Yeah.
And they're returning, and I think the thing is, you shouldn't think of the returns just as your time on the clock. The running is actually returning in all kinds of ways in your life, which is what kind of Murakami kind of touches on.
I mean, you said your wife, my wife, they notice when we don't run. When the days we don't run, our days are not as good. We're not as good in mood as we usually can be.
Yeah, been quite a few days where my wife has said, "You haven't run today, have you?" I said, "No." Why don't you go out and have a run?
Yes, dear. Absolutely.
Thank you. I get the message. Yes.
Exactly.
I understand the assignment. I'm putting my shorts on.
And then it changes your day.
Okay. So should we give like a little summary of the book in terms of your opinions and any questions you got or any discussion points you
want
to do? I'll go first. Just sort of summary thoughts on what I talk about when I talk about running by Haruki Murakami. I think if you like contemplative books about running, you'll love this. If you're looking for a lot of technical or coaching advice, this is not the book for that. It's more a reflection on the feelings. I think we've mentioned it several times, the feelings and mental aspects of being a runner, and also coming from a position of relative naivety. That's not an insult. That's just, we're not trying to put a lot of technical information, understanding behind it. We're just coming as a person and talking about how what sort of person does running help me to become.
Mhm.
An interesting point I noticed was I read it, I think it was right at the back of the book, that the actual title of the book is borrowed from a book by an author called Raymond Carver. His title was What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. And I think Murakami could have sort of borrowed that and tweaked it. Right at the end, he says, one of the things I'd like currently that I think I'd like to have on my tombstone was underneath his name and his dates. At least he never walked, because of his obsessiveness about not
Yeah.
walking.
He really takes pride in that. I love it.
Yeah.
When I was running in high school, I was not the most fit runner, and I just liked showing up for races. But I thought the exact same way. As long as I don't walk, I don't care if I'm last. At least I know I gave it my all.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah,
I
and
feel
I
that.
guess that's if it gives you that, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for my thoughts, I echo it so well. I feel the exact same way as you do. I feel like the book deeply reflects the conversations we have when we're running long run miles or slow miles or even recovery warm up cool down miles with our friends. It feels like these are the thoughts we have and that we share with our friends and teammates, the types of conversations that just keep going, that start one place and end somewhere else. And when it comes to Murakami's book specifically, how he sees running, it's like there are two runners in there. There's the one that enjoys running and the one that doubts running.
Yeah.
And both of those, and personally, I think that they lie in all of us, whether we share it or
Yeah.
not. And he portrays both so well with the vulnerability that
Yeah.
that I commend. And for him to put in a book like that makes you feel seen. And that's why this book, it's good for every runner and endurance athlete. It feels like it's a comfort read. It's visual. It's also very light. It's not a heavy book to read. It doesn't take long. It's not too thick, which probably explains why this podcast episode won't be super long. And so it explains a lot of good things about it. It's a good way to enter the introspective mind like his. And this might be a bit of a hot take, but I feel like despite the title, what I talk about when I talk about running, it doesn't have to be about running. This book, the thoughts can be applied elsewhere. To borrow a phrase about the famed show The Office, it's not a TV show about paper. It's a TV show about going to work. Paper is just the medium, the vehicle through which they work. I feel like running in this situation is just the vehicle through which he describes his emotions, describes his thoughts, his insecurities, his strengths. So if you have a parent, a sibling, a friend, or someone in your life that says they don't understand running so much, well, maybe this will help them understand a little bit, because all the feelings in here you can apply to anywhere, and they'll see you a little better. So, and it's not too niche. You're not thinking. No one's talking about pace. No one's talking about mileage.
Not at
He
all.
puts sometimes. Oh, I ran this.
It's very
mileage
humanized.
this week.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's interesting. It's interesting you talk about two runners. I was on a chat this morning talking with some people about the Boston Marathon on my Go Running Tours conference call.
Nice.
And I guess that might come out on their podcast somewhere. And somebody was asking me, how do you feel when you're in Newton Hills and you're climbing through? And I said, you know what it feels like? It feels like Gollum in the Lord of the Rings. You know when he does good Gollum and bad Gollum? When he says, we should take the ring and kill the hobbitses. And oh no, but the hobbitses are nice to us. And he goes backwards and forwards. I said, it's like having good Gollum and bad Gollum in your head. These hills are going to kill me. No. You can do it. It's just one hill. There's a downhill on the other side. You'll be able to recover. No, but I can't keep going. It's too steep. And you have these two runners inside you. It's like Gollum in Lord of the Rings.
And I'm sure I know which one wins every single time.
The good Gollum, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's really cool that we can admit to ourselves that bad Gollum is there, and it's okay that it's there.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that someone can put that in a book.
It's there for everybody.
Yeah. Nothing in here is writing advice. Hey, you should probably do this and do that. Even though he says you're a machine, you can do more, he still admits all the things that we think.
So in summary, you'd recommend the book?
100% to runners and non-runners alike.
Cool.
It was funny. I was reading this at a track meet with my students last week while I was coaching and watching. And they'd say, "Oh, what are you reading, sir?" And I would show it to them, like, "Oh, you're quite the runner." And just by reading it, because the title literally says I talk about running. But I don't know. Although the title is borrowed from Raymond Carver's book, I truly feel it's almost a misnomer. I wanted to tell my students it's not really about running. You should pick it up. You should like it, even though you're running. You're at a track meet. It's not just about running. So I would recommend it to anyone and everyone, honestly.
Great stuff. Should we do our outro? Do you want to do the outro?
I'll do it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Running Book Reviews. If you would like to leave us feedback about how we can improve the podcast, if you want a new host, or want to suggest the book that you would like to review in a future episode, please
come back, Liz. Come back.
Please come back. Please leave us a comment on social media. On social media, we are Running Book Reviews on Facebook and Instagram. And on Twitter, I'm never going to call it X. We are reviews_running. Please also follow us on social media to find out about new episodes when they are released. Or you can subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. If you have been listening for a while and are wondering how you can help us out, there are a few ways. If you're enjoying the podcast, please spread the word. Tell your friends about us. Share a link to your favorite episode with a running partner. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if this is how you listen to the podcast. And you can also rate us on Spotify out of 5 stars. We are now on Buy Me a Coffee. I can tell you as a listener, Buy Me a Coffee, the things in there are exquisite. You can buy us a coffee. You can leave. You can listen to what Alan and Liz have had to say in the past, and buy them coffee if you feel like. It all goes to a good place.
And that's all for today from Running Book Reviews. Bye for now.
See ya.